Hi, I'm Tiffany. Welcome to Towering TBR. Today is time for the mid-year book Freakout tag. This gives us a chance to kind of look over our reading, see what we liked, see what we didn't, and looking forward to the rest of the year. I'm using these questions more as an inspiration, and I'm not going to answer quite all of them. So the first question is the best book. I have not been having a great reading year. I have read 49 books, and I only have five stars. So let me tell you about my 5 stars. The Wonder State by Sara Flannery Murphy really took me by surprise how much I liked it. This is a small town mystery with some paranormal vibes. So after a lady goes missing, her 5 high school friends all show up the next day. And it's quite suspicious. How did they know that she had gone missing? Why are they back? And you get to see this group of 6. And they talk about what kind of cemented them as this friend group. And there were so many twists. I didn't see it all coming. And for that, it would have been a 5-star anyway. However, this small town that does not exist is called Eternal Springs, and it is very much based off Eureka Springs. I found it really cool catching those little Easter eggs about that town. It's a very famous tourist town, quite small, and just seeing all of those connections made it really interesting. It was a page turner. I did not want to put it down. This next 5-star is my most recent, and it's called The Labyrinth of Lost and Found. This is a middle grade fantasy story about a young boy who does not believe in magic. He is very much science and facts and things you can prove. But one day he receives this doll, and this doll comes alive and basically opens a door into a magical land that he then goes into. It was a lot of fun seeing him, try to refute magic when he could see it right in front of his face. Honestly, this was such a heartwarming and uplifting story, and it reminded me that stories are magic, and I was in kind of a low headspace, and to be reminded of that, be reminded of the joy and the escapism and the sheer wonder that stories can bring, I absolutely loved it. There's a second one, and I'm going to pick it up when I can, because it was just phenomenal. The third one is My Government Means to Kill Me by Rashid Newsom. This is a historical fiction focused on a young man who is gay and moves to New York City to kind of explore that part of himself and to start over. And in the beginning, it's quite a lot of him really engaging in quite some risky sex acts. He is a regular at a bathhouse where he would have kind of anonymous sex with men. And it's through making friends, I guess, through this bathhouse that he starts to hear about the AIDS epidemic, and he starts to volunteer and try to offer palliative care for the men who are too sick to take care of themselves. And it was phenomenal. I'm saying that word a lot. I really cared about these characters. I really sometimes wanted to shake them and be like, why are you doing that? But this was an excellent book, and if this author puts out anything else, I am sure to pick it up. These last 2 I'm going to talk about more briefly because I have done videos on them, and I will link to the appropriate spots. My most anticipated read was Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, and it was 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I did a single review that I'll link if you want more details, but essentially, John Green kind of tells the story about how he met this young boy, Henry, in Sierra Leone, and Henry has treatment-resistant tuberculosis. And we find out kind of a lot of different pieces of tuberculosis, how it affected people in history, how it made its way into art, like books. I was just utterly gobsmacked that this is a disease that kills over 1 million people a year, but we have a cure, just people can't afford this cure, and that's how Henry had resistant TB, is he wasn't able to access complete care. It made me feel all the feels. It really made me care about this disease that I kind of thought of more as just this historical thing. I didn't know it was still killing so many people. And it's interesting. It's It's informative, but it is also hopeful. It's not just all doom and gloom. More thoughts in my single book review, but absolutely loved it. It is currently my favorite of the year. The other book I've talked about was a graphic memoir called Give Me Space, But Don't Go Far. I'll link it where I talk about it. But this is Haley's story of being a competitive swimmer and also dealing with anxiety. She draws her coping mechanisms as these cute little personifications. And I really related. I felt like I really could understand her anxiety and why she would use certain coping mechanisms in different situations. And yes, I just absolutely adored it. And the art is super cute. Okay, so while I have only had five stars, I have had a handful of 4.5 stars as well. My favorite sequel this year was A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the sequel to The Tainted Cup, which I absolutely adored, and this got 4.5 stars. So we focus on Din and Anna, and they're kind of a Sherlock and Watson duo, but they're in this fantastical land, and there's all sorts of cool magic, and they live in walled cities to protect themselves against the Leviathan. And I thought that this mystery was really interesting. It was very complex. And as it unraveled, I was just delighted the whole way through. Uh, Definitely cannot wait for him to put out another in that series. Also, I listen to all of my books on audio because I have migraines and I can't always read with my eyes, and I use audiobooks as accommodations. This audiobook specifically is an excellent way to get the story. I will put up the narrator names because I don't remember them off the top of my head. Absolutely recommend as an audiobook or as a book that you read with your eyes. Either way is an excellent sequel. Another 4.5 that was a real surprise to me was You Killed Me First by John Mars. I had read 3 John Mars books before, and I did like them, but the ones I had read had kind of a sci-fi speculative element. And this one doesn't. It mostly doesn't. This was a really interesting thriller in which the very first scene is this woman is trapped in a giant bonfire on Guy Fawkes night when they know they're going to light this big bonfire. And it's how did she get there? Who put her there? And why? You don't know. So the scene that opens is incredibly propulsive. And then we focus on 3 characters who kind of live in the same neighborhood. And we don't know which of the 3 is the victim or if it's another person entirely. And the story just really unravels in a very interesting way. And it kept my attention. Like, I didn't want to put it down. And yeah, so it was a surprise. So while I told you I have a handful of 5s and 4.5s, I also have quite a few duds as well. And I think that's probably what lends me thinking that this year is a bit more mid than usual. I have 2 disappointments. The first is The Dead Friend Project by Joanna Wallace. I read her first book, You Would Look Better as a Ghost, and absolutely loved it. I thought the character, who was a serial killer, was hilarious, and I was really interested to see what was going on with her. And so I eagerly anticipated this. I put it on wish lists and was able to get it. And it was just bleh. It was another mystery. A woman in her friend group dies and she's hit by a car. And this woman is like, I don't think this was an accident. I think somebody targeted her. And so she kind of does her own like amateur sleuthing. But the ending just totally falls apart. It was like getting a cake and having all of the middle inside just uncooked. Like, there was not enough resolution. It didn't make sense, the way they were trying to wrap up the story. So now I'm like, do I even want to follow this author anymore? Because this was such a disappointment. The other disappointment was The Wall by Marlon Hosaufer. I heard so many booktubers talking about this book and praising it. And it's this sci-fi speculative survival story where this giant invisible wall comes down and basically cuts her off from the rest of society. And this one is another one where the ending just ruined it. Like, I was like, okay, she's surviving. She's got some animal companions. She's learning new things. Okay, cool. It was fine. It was probably going to be a 3-star. But that ending came out of nowhere and gave me no resolution. And it honestly feels like the author died before she finished the book or something, which I don't think that's the case, but it just felt super incomplete. So some of my repeat authors that I love that I keep seeking out their books, I want to talk about those. The first, like I mentioned earlier, is John Mars. This was my, I think, 4th book by him. And every single book I've read by him has been really good. It's gotten 4 or 4.5 stars. So I'm continuing to read his backlist and I'm really enjoying it. He's quite a prolific author, so I still have lots to get to. Who am I reading mystery and thrillers? Like, I just realized that this is kind of heavy on mystery and thrillers when this is not my main genre, but I just have a lot to say, I guess. So Gillian McAllister is another repeat author that I read her newest book that came out this year. I really enjoyed it. It was very fast paced. I think I've read the majority of her works, but I know she has a new one coming out next year. So I'm very excited for that. And the last author that I have been repeatedly going back to is Sarah Waters. And I have read all 6 of her books now, the last one being Affinity, which I absolutely adored and is my second favorite. I know the question at the end is to shout out some booktubers, but I want to shout out Elle from Elle Thinks. She did an excellent video on Sarah Waters, and she's read all 6 as well. And I've just really been enjoying her content. Okay, so my favorite character has to be Princess Donut from Dungeon Crawler Carl. The audiobooks are so amazing. Jeff Hayes narrates them, but you would swear they're a full cast because he does so many dynamic voices for all of the characters. So if you're unaware of what Dungeon Crawler Carl is about, it is basically aliens have taken over Earth, and anyone who was in a building, all of that collapsed, and anyone who was outside, which Carl was outside because the cat Princess Donut ran outside and ultimately saved him. They then have to go into these dungeons, basically on an alien reality show where they have to team up, fight monsters, progress through the levels, find loot boxes, upgrade their weapons. And Princess Donut is just the most sassy, lovable character that I've ever read. So if you have not read those and you like a really sassy animal companion, definitely recommend. Okay, and I want to talk about the 2 videos that I've made this year that I am the proudest of. The first is my Eurovision TBR and vlogs. I was able to participate in Eurovision-a-thon, which is a readathon that basically you read books set in different countries, the countries that are competing in Eurovision. However, they score in the final, in the grand final, is how many points you get for the readathon. And it was such fun. I absolutely love Eurovision. I'm ridiculously fanatic about it. And I feel really proud of those videos, which I will link them if you missed them and you want to check them out. The other video that I'm really, really proud of is my 12 favorite narrators. I started a whole audiobook series, but this 12 favorite narrators was the one I'm most proud of because I did a lot of research on them and I gave good samples, and it came together in a way that I was just really excitedly proud of. I love audiobooks. I'm definitely going to be adding to that series, but the other person I wanted to shout out is Amanda from Spineless Books. She exclusively reads audiobooks and gives all sorts of helpful information about narrators, about the timing, whether or not it's kind of too dense to do on audiobook. And yeah, I've been having a blast following her. So I will link her. Check her out if you want more audiobook stuff. Okay, so that's pretty much my look back. Now I'm going to look forward to the rest of the year. I have 2 buddy reads that I'm really excited to get to this year. The first is Jade City with Chattie from Chattie the Mad Chatter. I'll link her as well. I have heard so much about Jade City by Fonda Lee, and I'm ridiculously excited to get to it. It is definitely one of the ones I want to prioritize. The other buddy read that I'm going to be doing is with Audrey over at Audrey Approved. Again, link her. we are going to be buddy reading The City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett. I'm pretty sure Robert Jackson Bennett is my new favorite author this year. As I have no more Anna and Din, I have decided to start reading from his backlist. And so Audrey and I are going to be reading The City of Stairs. 3 more books that I really desperately want to get to by the end of the year. The first is The Will of the Many. And yes, I said that last mid-year, and I haven't gotten to it. But the sequel is coming out in November, and so many people are eagerly excited for it. So I want to read The Will of the Many before the sequel comes out. I'm also planning to read The Raven Scholar. I received an ALC for that, which is an advanced listening copy. Although it is out right now, I've gotten a little bit behind, but I definitely am going to prioritize that one as well. And then I definitely want to pick up some more Ursula K. Le Guin. I think I'm leaning towards picking up The Dispossessed, but honestly, any more Le Guin would just be awesome. I don't have a strong preference on where I go next in her backlog. Okay, so I know I didn't answer quite all of the questions, but I've had a good time chatting about my reading life so far. Please let me know what the best book you read this year, and if you want to answer any of the other questions, I will have them linked in my description, and feel free to tell me all about the highs and lows of your reading. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.